Welcome to another episode of Crafting with Roswell. Today I'm going to be showing you how to use 2 paint colors and some tape in order to create a buffalo plaid pattern. We'll also be adding a Be Merry decal when we're all finished. So your kit includes a wood square. So here's an example of a finished one. So for today's project, I'm just going to use the back side of this rather than using a whole new board. You're going to receive black paint and red paint, 2 makeup sponges to just pull them apart. You're going to have painter's tape, 3 sections on a piece of a straw, a small spoon to help you mix your paints, the Be Merry decal with the contact tape, and a paper plate that has a little bit of a coating on it to help you mix your colors. You will also need paper towels nearby, and this can get a little messy. And I recommend having a sink or baby wipes because you are going to want to clean off your spoon in between color switches. So let's get started. And just for speeding up the video, potentially, I have a hair dryer nearby in case I need to speed up drying time in between steps. All right, so I'm going to take my first sponge and I am going to just dip right into the red paint and do a very light layer of red on my board. So I just take a little bit at a time and really just wipe it on using the makeup sponge acting like my paintbrush. And it's okay with your first coat if you're still seeing the grain of the wood. You don't want it too thick that it takes forever to dry. And usually by the time you make your way across to the other side, the side you first started painting is going to already be dry or pretty close to it. So I'm just going to give this a little bit of a fanning to help speed up the drying. And I'm just going to go ahead real quick and add another light layer of red just to give me a deeper base coat for the project. So I'm pretty happy with this color red. Just going to go ahead and grab a baby wipe, do a quick cleanup. And while this is still drying, I'm going to go ahead and start mixing my first color. So I'm going to use my little spoon, dip into my red paint, and grab about half of what's in your container. Shake your spoon out a little bit. And then again, I need to wipe this red off because I do not want to add red into my black, but I will dip my spoon and grab just a little bit of black to add into my red. And so now I'm going to mix this in to create a burgundy color. So we have our classic red, and we're just looking to add in a little black to make it a little darker. The next red that we create is going to be slightly darker than this. And then the last layer of paint that we will do is just completely black. Just be sure to mix this up really well. If you end up with slight color variations, having not mixed it completely, it won't make a huge impact in your project. But as even as possible is the goal. So once again, I'm going to clean off my spoon and set it aside because I won't need it until we start doing the next paint mixing. All right, now that my paint is all mixed and ready, my board should be closer to being dry. I'm just going to give it a quick shot with my hair dryer to speed up this process, but we do want to make sure this is completely dry before we add on our first layer of painter's tape. So bear with the noise for 1 minute. So now I'm completely dry to start adding on my tape. So we're going to end up doing multiple layers of taping. So we're going to use tape to create different stripes. That'll get peeled off when the next layer of paint is dry, then another round and another round of tape. So go ahead and peel off a section of tape, and while working off of your straw that I've wrapped for you, just do enough tape to be as wide as the board. Don't go overboard and cut strips way longer. You might end up short on tape that you need for the project if you're too generous off the sides. So I'm going to go ahead and line up this first piece of tape along the edge of my board. Like so. And then I'm going to tear off another piece of tape. And this piece of tape is going to act as my spacer. So I press that first one down, line this up right next to, but not overlapping that first piece. Tear off another one. Line it up next to, but not overlapping that second piece. And then the second piece we pull off. So it's helping us create evenly spaced striped lines without having to do any measuring. So put down my spacer piece, tear off another piece, and keep working my way from top to bottom, making horizontal stripes on my board. You don't have to be perfect. Again, this is a homemade project. We're not machines. So there's going to be some variations. And that's to be expected. So there's one little strip at the bottom. I'm going to save my spacer piece off to the side because I will need that again. And this one's a little crooked. So give that a little fix. And then just be sure to press down the edges of your tape. You want to make sure that those are firmly down so the paint does not bleed underneath. Some bleeding can likely happen, but this will help avoid that. So then we're going to grab our sponge once again, and this time I'm just going to turn it over so that I'm filling this other part. So this is what I originally did, and now I'm going to fill this part with my new color of paint. So I'm going to dip my sponge in, but then I'm going to lightly pounce it on my plate because I do not want my sponge load it up with too much paint. We want to do a nice light layer and then just pounce on your open stripe. And grab more paint as needed and keep pouncing to add this darker color over that original red. And then just go back through any spots that you feel might need a little touching up with a little more paint to keep them even as possible. And to speed up the drying, I'm just going to turn on the blow dryer once again, and we are now done using this sponge, so it's safe to throw it away if you would like to. So give my fingers another quick wipe. And I'll turn the hairdryer back on. So making sure that your hands are clear of paint. Just do a quick wipe and see if anything transfers to you. If nothing comes up, then we're good to peel off our next layer of tape. And this tape is not going to be reused. We will use new strips for the next sections that we tape on. So there's our first layer of striping. So before I start taping off the next section, I'm going to go ahead and mix my next color. Now, if you have a lot of this colored already mixed, you can just add a little more black to it. But since I have enough red paint in my cup, I'm just going to empty out what I have left for red paint and mix a whole new fresh batch of my next color. So this is the last time we use red, so you can just go ahead and use your spoon and empty it all out. But we will need to use the black again one more time, so we still don't want to contaminate it with red in the pot. So I'm just going to clean off my spoon. And grab a little more black paint, but I'm going to do a little more than I did the last time. And just tap that on the plate next to my red and do a mix. So you end up with a deeper brown than your previous layer. But you don't want to add so much black that this becomes practically black. We're going for that in between. And just keep evenly mixing. until you're happy with your color. Right. Set the spoon aside. We won't need that again for the rest of this project. And so now we have the original red, the medium shade, and now the darker shade. So we're going to go ahead and keep our board with our horizontal stripes. And now we're going to do some vertical taping. So I have my first piece, but I'm actually going to grab my spacer. So the first piece that you put down is actually going to be your spacer piece. The piece that you put next to it is the one that will stay down, and we will keep working our way across the board. And then go ahead and start loading your next color onto your sponge, doing the same pounce method as before. I'm going to go ahead and use the blow dryer one more time. Quick cleanup. And now we're going to use the same sponge one more time to do just black, but we're going to leave this tape down and add our next layer over it. So depending on how dark your lines look, we're going to follow along with the taping pattern we originally did. So along the top edge, and if you can see your lighter lines, that's what we're trying to cover over. Otherwise, I recommend using your spacer piece and keep moving your way down your board like you originally did. To make that one long enough. Once again, we're going to push down on these edges. And now in all of our openings, we're going to take our sponge and use our black paint. So I'm still just going to use a little part of my paper plate to help do my pouncing. So I'm actually just going to use the end of the sponge, fill it with a little bit of black paint, and use that edge to pounce before I then pounce on all of these openings. So I'm going through with a light layer, and I can go through after and add a little more. But again, you don't want to do too thick and potentially have it bleed. A little more finger cleanup, and then another round of the hair dryer. We are all done painting. And once it's dry, we're ready to start peeling off our tape. So we're going to start with our horizontal tape layers, the last layer that we added on first. And then we're going to go ahead and pull off our other layer. And there we have it, a buffalo plaid sign. And since this is already completely dry, we can go ahead and use our contact paper and your Be Merry decal and add that on top. I'm just going to peel the paper backing away from our contact tape. Grab the Be Merry. There's a little hair I don't want to get stuck. Place your contact tape over your Be Merry and just use your finger to push the tape down onto your decal. So next up is peeling away the paper backing. So I just start in one corner, use my fingers to push the letters onto my contact tape. Just roll it back towards me slowly. And then just push it back forward if you need to, if a letter is caught and not rolling off. Push it down and then keep rolling away. And there is our Be Merry. And then on your sign, it's just choosing where you would like to place it. So, in the one I made in the class last night, I did the bottom corner. For this one, I think I'm just going to go for about the center. And so I'm just roughly eyeballing this, picking a place, and then pushing it down with my fingers. And once you've pushed down a bit, go ahead and lift the corner of your contact tape and see if your letters are sticking down. And gently pull it away. So some of my black was still a little wet, so now I have a little distressed look. And there is my Be Merry sign. Join me next week when we're making personalized snow globes. So be thinking of your favorite family picture that you're going to want to resize to add your favorite family moment or furry kiddos into your snow globe. See you next week.